the head, try to educate the heart.
What's going on? It's the Big Rig Bull Texas truck accident lawyer Reshard Alexander here again on a Wednesday afternoon. I don't really have too much to talk about today. The reality is that I have been to court 3 times in a row this week, and it's just Wednesday. So I don't really have too much to talk about other than I need to work right now because I'm back in the office. But today's big board session will be about Class 8 corrosive hazardous materials. And I'm also going to do like a brief overview of Part 397, which is the transportation of hazardous materials, parking and attendance rules, and that type of jazz. So hang on tight, and the board session is coming right now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Big Rig Bull Texas truck accident lawyer Reshard Alexander here again for episode 59. Today we will cover Class 8 corrosives hazardous materials, or the shipment of them. Additionally, we're going to go over 397 very briefly, some sections of it, because Class 8 corrosives is generally a very short section, basically talking about storage batteries or batteries for the most part. And I just wanted to kind of go over a brief review of the things that we've covered in the past few vlog sessions. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so when we're talking about Class 8 corrosives, and we're talking about the loading and unloading of them, the most important thing that a professional truck driver needs to understand, or a truck accident lawyer who is reviewing a corrosive hazmat spill needs to understand, is that Class 8 corrosive should not be loaded and transported with Division 4.2 spontaneously combustible materials. Obviously, spontaneously combustible mixed with corrosives, batteries, could be a very, very dangerous situation. We're talking about acid here. It could be a very dangerous situation for not only the truck driver, but the general public as well. So don't mix Division 4.2 and Class 8 materials. Alright? When it comes to nitric acid, no package of nitric acid of 50% or greater concentration may be loaded above any packaging containing any other kind of material. It's common sense. We don't want that stuff spilling down on anything else, destroying it, or potentially causing an explosion or some other type of hazmat situation for our firefighters and our first responders to have to deal with. When we're talking about storage batteries containing any electrolyte and hauled in a mixed load must be loaded so that they are protected from other cargo. Now, as a side note, battery terminals must be insulated and protected from the possibility of short circuits. Alright, and I stated before, and I'll state it again, that nitric acid should not be loaded above other cargo. Alright, now that's pretty much it for what we're going to cover for Class 8 corrosives hazardous materials today. So let's just jump into 397, which is the transportation of hazardous materials and driving and parking rules for professional truck drivers. Alright, I've covered this stuff before. I'm just going to cover it briefly again. I've already stated to you before that when it comes to no smoking, or to smoking around hazmat trucks, you shouldn't do that. Okay, you can't smoke or even carry a lighted cigarette, a cigar, or any type of pipe on or within 25 feet of a Class 1, Class 5 inflammable materials, Division 2.1, 4.1, 4.2, and Class 3 materials as well. Additionally, if we're talking about Class 3 flammable materials, or we're talking about Division 2.1 flammable gases, you are not supposed to carry a lighted cigarette, cigar, or pipe, or smoke one, around an empty tank that has transported that type of hazardous material. All right? Let me step over here so you can see. All right, so when we're talking about 397.3, we're talking about the state and local laws, okay? So pretty much, local and state laws must be abided by. You must abide by the jurisdiction that you are traveling in when you are transporting hazardous materials on the roadways. Unless there is some variance from the Department of Transportation's rules, the Department of Transportation rules will obviously supersede the state law if there is a variance between the two. We're talking about 397.5. And 397.5 is talking about the attendance and surveillance of motor vehicles. So we're talking about the professional truck driver or qualified representative of the motor carrier must be present around the hazmat truck at all times. Okay, so attendance under 397.5 means that the person in charge of the vehicle is, number one, they're awake. Number two, they're not in the sleeper berth. Number three, or within 100 feet of the vehicle, and they have an unobstructed view of the vehicle. So I'm going to say that again just for you, just in case you didn't get that. The person who's in charge of attending the vehicle must be awake at the time and not in a sleeper berth, or they must be within 100 feet of the vehicle and has an unobstructed view of the vehicle. Okay? Qualified representative of the motor carrier means that the person is, number one, designated by the carrier to attend to the vehicle. Number two, they are aware of the nature of the hazardous materials contained in the vehicle he or she attends. And three, they've been instructed in the procedures, emergency procedures, and they are authorized to move the vehicle in the event that an emergency arises, and they have the actual means and ability to do so. All right. The last definition in 397.5 that we need to remember is a safe haven. Okay, a safe haven is defined as an area specifically approved in writing by the local, state, or federal authority for the parking of unattended vehicles containing Division 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 materials. Okay, the last thing that we're going to cover is this last section over here. All right, when it comes to fueling of a hazmat truck is covered in 397.15, and it is pretty much the engine must not be operating at the time the vehicle is being fueled, and the person a qualified person, must be in control of the fueling process at all times. When it comes to placarding regulations of hazardous materials, that is going to be governed by 177.823. Okay, when we're talking about fires are section 397.13, and we pretty much covered this in the past, but there can be no parking within 300 feet of an open fire when you are transporting hazardous materials in a commercial motor vehicle. When it comes to tires are covered in 397.17. Pretty much, it's just common sense. If there is a repair that needs to take place, or there needs to be a replacement of a tire or a repair of a tire, then it needs to be done, as soon as possible. And you pretty much have to do the same thing if it comes to tires overheating. You need to repair, replace as soon as possible. However, the tires can't, or the truck can be driven for a short distance if it's an emergency or it's necessary to do so, to get it out of the way of traffic and things of that nature. The last thing is parking, and parking is covered in section 397.7. When it comes to division 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, we already covered this, but there can be no parking of a hazardous materials truck within 5 feet of a public street or a highway. And if you're going to park it, you cannot park a hazmat truck that is transporting Division 1, Division 1.2, Division 1.3 hazardous material on private property without the knowledge of the person in charge of the actual facility, and that's even if it's like an eating place or a fueling station or something like that. And they must also be aware of the cargo that you're transporting. So if it's hazardous materials, they need to be aware of that. They need to be known, made known of what you're transporting. The last thing is that you can't park within 300 feet of a bridge, tunnel, or any place where people will congregate regularly. And for all the other hazardous materials that are not Division 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, you still cannot park within 5 feet of a public street or a highway with that type of cargo. So this wraps up episode 59, where we talked about Class 8 corrosives, and we talked about a brief overview of Section 397, Transportation of Hazardous Materials, and the driving and parking rules that regulate them. This is the Big Rig Bull, Texas Truck Accident Lawyer Reshard Alexander, signing out and hoping that you have a blessed day.
There's blood in the water, and know that it won't last. My light is brighter, and I hope that it will last. You think that it's directions, the ones you never choose. The way that you're facing determines if you lose. Fortunes that you made, choices that you gave, you want it, you want it. And I am like the sun, boy,